Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Deering and Ms. Hope Braun. My name is Stephen Armstrong, and I'm Commission Counsel. Thank you for coming today. I have 45 minutes to ask you some questions, and because you're a panel, I'm going to ask questions mostly one at a time, but when I have questions for you as a group. Sorry? Oh, sorry, you have to be sworn. Forgot about that. I got too eager.
Mr. Deering,
Yes.
will you swear on a religious document or do you wish to affirm?
I wish to affirm.
For the record, please state your full name and spell it out.
Christopher Gregory Deering, CHRISTOPHER, GREGORY
Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence to be given by you to this commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Ma'am, will you swear on a religious document or do you wish to affirm?
The Bible, please. Do I stand?
For the record, please state your full name and spell it out.
Margaret Hope Braun, MARGARET HOPEBRAUN.
Do you swear that the evidence to be given by you to this commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Thank you.
So good morning again. As I was just explaining, because it's a panel, I'm going to ask questions mostly one at a time. But when I have a question for you as a group, I'll try to make that clear, okay? So I understand, and this is for the panel, I understand that you both provided statements to your counsel.
That's correct.
Yes.
And have you had a chance to review those statements before testifying today?
Yes.
Yes.
And did you want to make any corrections to those statements?
No.
No.
Okay, and so in the interest of time, I'm not going to put them on the screen, but for the record, Mr. Deering's statement is produced at HRF 00001598, and Ms. Hope Braun's statement is produced at HRF 00001606. So I just want to ask some questions about your background really quickly. So Mr. Deering, I understand that you're a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces
Yes, sir.
and you served a tour of duty in Afghanistan.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that you were wounded on that tour.
It was.
Can you briefly tell the commissioner about that event?
Sure. I joined the military quickly in 2007. Finished my training very quick. I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2008. So in less than approximately 2 years, I was in Afghanistan. 4 months into my tour, my vehicle was hit by a IED, which took my vehicle. It blew my vehicle about 100 feet in the air, killing 3 occupants immediately and leaving me seriously wounded. I came back to Canada and, lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I also saw, sir, and we'll take a moment. I saw that you're wearing medals.
Yes, sir.
Can you just explain what the medals are?
So left to right, left would be my Queen Jubilee Medal. It was lost during the protests with the scuffle with the police. Second is my campaign star for my tour to Afghanistan, and my sacrifice medal that I earned for being seriously wounded in combat.
And I understand now that you're retired from the Canadian Armed Forces
Yes, sir.
and you reside in Hanwell, New Brunswick.
I do.
Thank you. And Ms. Hope Braun, I understand that you're from Peterborough, Ontario,
Yes.
and you studied environmental studies at Sanford Fleming College,
Sir Sanford Fleming.
Sir
Yes.
Sanford, and you're a mother to 2 children.
Yes.
Thank you. So if I can ask Mr. Deering, I understand that you traveled to Ottawa to protest with the convoy. What made you want to come to Ottawa and protest?
It really wasn't that I wanted to come to Ottawa, it's that I felt it was my duty and that I had no choice to be there. seeing what was happening over the last few years was troubling. And I felt that I was there 2 weekends, first between February 11th and 13th, in which a bunch of veterans took down the fence that was wrongly placed around the memorial. And then I went home, and then within days, the Emergency Act was looked at being enacted, and I rushed back to Ottawa to do what I could to protect the peaceful citizens of the protest.
And so when you traveled to Ottawa, what did you understand that you were there to protest?
The mandates. I was there to protest the mandates.
And why was that important to you?
Because for the last 2 years, personally, as a wounded veteran, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't take my family to a restaurant. I couldn't take my kids to gymnastics. I couldn't grieve my comrades in Nova Scotia because I wasn't allowed to cross the border in my own vehicle by myself to a cemetery where no one was living and lay my flowers for my mental health. And I was denied that for 2 years. There's many more reasons. And again, my train of thought is lost. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll ask some questions now to Ms. Hope Braun. I also understand that you traveled to Ottawa to protest. What made you want to come to Ottawa?
Yeah, it had been going on 2 years of mandates, and they just seemed to get more and more restrictive. I had tried every avenue available within our system to communicate the difficulty that I was seeing around me and experiencing to our government at various levels, and nothing was effective, and the tone was not changing coming from the federal government. And I was just losing hope and really looking for options on how I could find more a more peace and safety for my family, and felt really isolated. And then seeing the convoy begin. I also lived out west for 10 years, so I have a lot of my support network is there, and I couldn't travel there. And so there was a lot of people who I know personally that were sharing stories about how it was affecting them where they were. And I just felt, since I'm 3 hours away from Ottawa, I have a duty to go as well, and not just represent myself, but many Canadians who could not come and felt passionately about this.
And so when did you come to Ottawa?
I came the second Saturday. I came the third weekend for the entire weekend, and I came back that Wednesday and stayed until the end. So.
And can you tell the commissioner what your experience was with those protests?
Oh, well, when we first arrived, I came with a girlfriend for the Saturday, and there was just a lot of energy. I was seeing people from all different backgrounds and cultures, different outfits and cultural outfits that I had never even seen before in Canada. There was lots of hugs, and there was walking up. There was just grown men crying and giving hugs and everywhere, and it was emotional, and we cried. We had spent a long time feeling like we were really alone, and not being able to go out, and really not being able to even talk or share our experience in our family gatherings because we were not welcome to speak openly about what we were experiencing. And so it felt like this was our family. And I saw so many good things. I could just go on for an hour on that. I saw lots of flags. I saw, yeah, I think that's good for now.
And if I could ask Mr. Deering, building on that, what was your experience with the protest and how did it compare? How was it similar to or different from Miss Hope Braun's?
My experience was that when we got to Ottawa, so on the way to Ottawa, so actually when the convoy was making their way to Ottawa, we attended a few. There were a lot of people would stand on the bridges to show support, and so where we lived close to a military base, and there must have been 4,000 to 5,000 people on this bridge waving flags, and it was amazing. And it was just the amount of support was incredible. We made our way February 11th, the first weekend, just to we wanted to see for ourselves what was going on, because when we watched the news, there was one narrative, and we wanted to see for ourselves, because on Facebook and social media, you'd see a whole completely different other story. So we wanted to go there for ourselves. So first instance was myself and my wife. We went up to see what was going on. I participated in the fence removal. Again, I went home. The following, it was the February 17th. I left my residence at 5 a.m. To go to the protest. But during the protest, there was hugs, there was homeless people being showered with food. I had read that crime was down. It was the most amazing experience I've had in my life. And I don't regret going or being there one bit. And I'm sorry, if you could refresh my memory on the question again. Sorry.
Just asking for your experience. And so, sorry, did you have anything more to add, or were you done?
There's a lot more I could pack into that, but it was the true Canadian spirit that was there.
Yeah, can I add?
Please do. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the first weekend that I came with my a female friend, and she stayed at my house the night before, and we were reading the news, the global news, and they had something in there about we haven't received a police report yet on how many additional rapes had taken place in the city since the convoy arrived. And that just really shook me that they would go to that extent to make anyway, that way. But when I got here, the experience was like the positive masculine experience, the way that the men were behaving. They were complete gentlemen. And, I felt not unsafe whatsoever in the city. And when my phone died and I went back, I wasn't familiar with the streets. I was approached and walked to my car and just treated with such respect by the men that were here.
And so for the panel, I understand that you were coming to Ottawa and then going home and coming back. Once the Emergencies Act was invoked, why did you want to either come to Ottawa or remain in Ottawa?
So I remember when they were voting on that, and my wife and I were lying in bed, and we were terrified how the vote was going, because we knew, or we felt, that the evidence would not be able to substantiate such a call. I felt there was a great need for me to be there, not just as a veteran, but as a seriously wounded veteran, to be there to protect the Canadian people from what could potentially happen.
Ms. Hope Braun?
Could you repeat the question?
So after the Emergencies Act was invoked, why did you want to come back to Ottawa or remain in Ottawa if you were already there?
Yeah, I came to Ottawa for Valentine's Day. So that was the day that it was invoked, February 14th, if I'm correct. That day, I witnessed hundreds of roses being offered to the police officers. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of trying to heal the divide that was being created between us and the police. And the streets of Ottawa were covered in roses that day. And further to that, just listening to the senators give their speeches, I felt that that as they were supposed to approve it, but then it was removed before they had a chance to approve it or not. It sounded like there was good reason to stick to what I felt was right and stay. And I don't believe that if a government passes a law, it means that we have to go against what we believe is right. We should still, we still have a right to peacefully protest and assemble. And if we can't do that in front of the Parliament in Ottawa, I don't know,
And so building on that, Ms. Hope Braun, once the Emergencies Act was invoked, what was your understanding of your ability to lawfully protest in the downtown area?
Well, I believe that we still have a right to protest in the downtown area or anywhere. That we were peaceful, and as long as we remained so, we had a right to assemble. And I had another point to that, but you could repeat the question again.
Well, that's okay. We can come back to it. I'll just
Okay.
ask Mr. Deering, what was your understanding once the Emergencies Act was invoked of your ability to lawfully protest in the downtown area?
My understanding is that it was a mandate. In my eyes, it was an unlawful mandate. I'm a free citizen of this country. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a veteran. I'm a good person. And I felt I had the right to be there with my Canadian citizens to try to protect them.
And so, Mr. Deering, I understand that on February 18th, 2022, you were in Ottawa protesting as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
And where were you staying in Ottawa that day, at that time?
So I drove up February 17th. I left my house at 5 a.m. because it takes me approximately 10, the drive is 10 hours with my back and my foot, my conditions. I have to stop every few hours. So I arrived in Ottawa sometime that evening. I parked my car, I remember, on Bank Street. I walked up to the memorial to just congregate with the veterans. I went back to my car, and knowing me, I got lost for an hour and a half. I walked around the city. I eventually found my car, which is where I slept. We had came up the previous weekend, which was about $1,000 for the hotel and food, and I didn't really have the means to pay for more hotel and lodging. So I slept in my car the previous night.
Do you recall where on Bank Street you parked?
No, I don't.
Was it in the downtown area?
I believe so.
And so when you drove in, did you pass any police checkpoints or anything like that?
I forget.
Okay, and Ms. Hope Braun, I understand that you were in Ottawa protesting on February 19th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Where were you staying at the time, or how did you find yourself in Ottawa?
I was at a hotel that was very close to Metcalf and Queen, I believe. So I'm not sure the names. I was at a hotel that weekend.
And when did you begin staying in that hotel?
It would have been on the Thursday night before that weekend. 17th, maybe? Not sure.
Okay, and Mr. Deering, on the 18th, and I'm going to stick with you for a few questions. On the 18th, where was the protest that I understand you participated in? Do you recall where in the downtown it was?
So I was at the memorial that day around 8 in the morning. I had my coffee. I was congregating with a few different vets. And then just, let's say, north or south, my navigation's a little off, but just about 100 feet from the memorial is where the police started to line up. And that's when the call out went, and all the veterans, or there was about 20 or so of us, we lined right up, we linked arms, and the consensus was we were going to stay there and try and protect the Canadian people.
And why did you want to do that?
It was our duty. When I joined the military, I swore on an oath to protect people. I went to a war zone to protect those people, and I never thought that someday I would have to do it on Canadian soil, but I did, and I will again. I would.
Were you told at any time or informed at any time that you couldn't be there or it was unlawful for you to be there?
No.
And I understand that you were arrested on the 18th. Is that correct?
I was.
Can you tell us briefly how you came to be arrested?
Sure. So I remember about 12:45 is when we lined up, we linked arms. 12:25, sorry. And we had a chance before the police decided to make their push. We had about 15 minutes to kind of converse, and I had the chance to speak with 4 or 5 officers. I let them know who I was, why we were there, what we were doing, the fact that we were peaceful. I showed them the photo of my crater of my bomb just to get them some reference so that if they did arrest me, I mentioned to every policeman I talked to, I said, if you arrest me, keep in mind I have a really bad back, please. Sorry, if you can repeat the question again, sorry.
Just asking about how you came to be arrested.
Okay, right. So I had a chance to converse with the police. Multiple police, after I spoke with them, they would move down the lines. They didn't want to really have anything to do with me. Finally, there was one member that came up. He didn't know my situation as much. I did have a chance to to give him my reference points, my photo and my story quickly. But about 45 minutes into the pushing, I kind of underestimated the amount of physical toll it would take on my body. After 14 years of not being able to do what I could do when I was 20, my muscles and my body was just, I had given up. I was finished. And the video would show that I succumbed and I gave myself to the police. And as the police took me down, again, he knew he kneed me in my side, kicked me in my back. I was laying down. I was in the fetal position on my back. He kicked me in my ankle, my foot. As I was laying down, I had my hands completely up. I'm saying, I'm very peaceful. I'm peaceful. I'm not resisting. I was then punched 4 or 5 times in my head. I had a knee on my back to keep myself down. I was on the ground for 1.5 to 2 minutes. My hands were zip tied. The officers slowly picked me up, and then we slowly proceeded to the processing line. We get to the processing line. The day was -20. I had no gloves on. At the beginning of the processing line, we were standing there, and I had asked, the duration of the processing line was 1.5 to 2 hours. So I was standing there in the cold for 2 hours. I asked the policeman who was on both sides of me, I said, do you mind, you know my conditions, is it okay if I sit or kneel because I'm in chronic pain? It was obvious, my face was flushed, and I cried multiple times, and I don't cry ever. It was the worst pain I had felt since I'd been blown up. The fact that I couldn't sit or stand was to me cruel and unusual punishment. We would go 15, 20 minutes without even moving. I also asked if I could have my medication, in which I had my prescription and my medication on my person so that if I needed it, I could ask. I asked, and I was denied my medication to comfort my duress. We finished the processing line after about 2 hours. Police took my, on the whiteboard, they put down my name, they took my photo. They then placed me in the back of the squad car. They read me what I was being charged with, which was mischief, public mischief, and sorry, I'm forgetting the other one. Public mischief and
Resistance?
sorry, 1 minute.
Take your time.
Public mischief and
It's okay, Mr. Jang. Your statement is in the record. So if I could actually move you back in time, what were you and your group doing just before you were arrested? What activity were you taking part in?
so we were linking arms. We were standing. We were not moving. We were not progressing, moving forward. We were telling the cops what they were doing was an unlawful order. We had every right to be there under our Charter of Rights and Freedoms to peacefully protest, which we were doing. They had no right to do what they did.
And at any time, either before you were arrested or after, were you given the option to go to another place in Ottawa to protest?
No.
Okay, Ms. Hope Braun, I think as we said earlier, I understand you were protesting on February 19th in
Yes.
Ottawa. Where was that protest that you participated in?
It was all, I guess at that point, we couldn't really go past Chateau Laurier. So I, for the most part, spent most of the protest up on Wellington, right in front of the Parliament building. I did walk around and see the sites a little bit, but that day, it was from Chateau Laurier to down Wellington. And then I was arrested when they had cleared Wellington, and protesters were then on the side streets. So I was on O'Connor. at
And
that
were
point.
you told before or any point that day or before or after your arrest that you were not allowed to be where you were?
No, not in that effect. No, there was, no. Obviously, we got the sense that we weren't welcome there, but I wasn't directly told that I wasn't allowed to be there, and in that way, that it wasn't lawful for me to be there.
What gave you the sense that you weren't welcome there?
The massive amount of police and their presence was taking over the city, it seemed. So and the news media and Justin Trudeau's words, and like more that I wasn't welcome there, not that that it was not lawful for me to be there. I believed it was lawful for me to be there, and I didn't hear otherwise.
And either before or after your arrest, were you given the opportunity or were you told about any kind of place you could go in Ottawa to peacefully protest?
No, there was no place provided or planned for us to go. And not only that, but afterwards, people were still coming from across the country, and places like Arnprior. They were assembling there, and the owner of that property was threatened with fines if he didn't have us disperse. So it wasn't even that we weren't welcome in Ottawa. We weren't even welcome to assemble an hour outside of Ottawa. So it extended beyond that red zone, in my opinion, in my experience.
And how did you come to be arrested? Can you tell us about
that? So when police had effectively removed everyone from Wellington Street, they had all the streets with the trucks on them at this point, and I was on O'Connor, and I had a bit of hope that they would stop there because we were remaining peaceful as protesters. We were there from all over the country, and there was a man who had the Charter of Rights, or I guess it was the Bill of Rights. It was a document. They look the same, and they both represent human rights. And so I took 3 copies of that, and there was 3 different police units, it seemed. They had different types of uniforms, so they appeared to be. So I spoke to each unit, and I said, you may have been able to justify this up until this point, but if you keep moving forward and you onto the people, because we're just the people now, that you have the trucks, you will be trampling our Charter of Rights with your boots. And I put it down in front of each one of them, and in the middle of the street, I knelt down and in front of the Charter, and I told the police officers that that if they move forward, I'm willing to not resist arrest, and I won't move at that point. So that was my line in the sand. So, yeah.
And just coming back to Mr. Deering, you had mentioned just before your arrest, you had said something about an unlawful order. I just wanted you to clarify what were you referring to? What was the unlawful order?
Can you
Take your
repeat the
time.
question again? Sorry.
Sorry?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
You had mentioned an unlawful order, and I just wanted you to clarify what you were referring to.
Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a brain fog at the moment.
So I think the context was I had asked you why you were there, and you said that you were there. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I understood it to be in defiance of an unlawful order, or you weren't leaving because of an unlawful order.
From what I understand, a mandate is just that it's a mandate. It's not a law. We didn't vote on it. The people didn't want it. It was pushed upon us, and I felt it was unlawful.
And what is the mandate?
The mandate was the Emergencies Act. Sorry.
And for the panel, can you just tell us what was the impact of these events on you?
Sorry, sorry, can you say it again? Was that for me?
For the panel, what was the impact of these events
Of the impacts of
on you
the
as a person?
for the past 2 years?
Sorry, on
Or-
the events in Ottawa.
The events in Ottawa. Sorry, I just need a minute.
So for me, the impacts where I was already I've always been concerned about our government overreach, and we have to keep an eye on our government. That's what our duty as people, the citizens of the country are, is to be politically active and involved and aware of what's going on. And over the years, I'm just increasingly starting to lose faith in the institutions and what, we say is we are Canadian. We're a democracy. We attract people from all over the world because this is a place where we have rights and freedoms. And to me, the impact was that it was evident to me in a very clear way and seen among the entire world that the Canadian government is not acting on this is my opinion, obviously, not acting according to what we mandated it to. It's not protecting us. It's not upholding its job. It's not doing its job. And to me, it just broke any illusion of that. And at the same time, I think it's important that we see that as Canadians in the world so that we can fix it, so that we can make it better. And we need to kind of keep that in check. It's the nature of being in a world filled with people. We have to balance it out.
And Mr. Deering, did you want to answer that as well?
Can you repeat the question one last time?
So
Sorry.
I'm wondering what the impact of your experience in Ottawa was and how it ended on you as a person.
It's such a loaded question. I'm sorry. There's so many emotions going on in my head. In the last 2 years, it's just been constant persecution after persecution. And I find that when the government has a role, but when they want to get into your lives and tell you who you can see, when you can see them, and dictate everything about your life, and when they get too intrusive, the overreach for me was just too much. And again, I had to be in Ottawa. It was my duty. I had no choice.
Yes, Ms. Hope Braun.
More personally, the impact for me is after speaking to a therapist, just clear signs of PTSD, like symptoms around what happened, and my whole life was really turned upside down from that time forward, and has impacted my life. It's a completely different life now, before and after that day. So
Okay, and I'd just like to close out with the panel. I'm going to ask both of you. Let's start with Ms. Hope Braun. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to say that we didn't get to talk about?
I don't think so. I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Deering?
If I could, I'd like to speak directly to you, sir. I think I'd like to ask you, and as a veteran, I'm asking you that this never happens again. You have the power of a whole country behind your opinion. Please use it to protect the Canadian people from this kind of misbehavior from this government towards its people ever again. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay. I think it's the Ottawa Police Service is going to go first.
David Michikowski, I'm counsel for the Ottawa Police. Good afternoon, Mr. Deering. Good afternoon, Ms. Hope Braun. Mr. Deering, you were looking at a statement that you had in front of you, and that's the document that's called Canada Freedom Rights Movement Statement of Chris Deering.
Okay, I don't remember that, sorry.
You have a document in front of
These are just my notes. Sorry, they're so I can reference because of my traumatic brain injury. I need some things to reference. So
Sure. I just want to see what those notes are. Is it the same as your statement that you were referring to?
yes,
Or is that
it's in there. Yes.
right? And so what it is, it's a document. We can put it up on the screen, but I think you have it in front of you. It's called Canada Freedom Rights Movement Statement of Chris Deering. Is that right?
I'm not sure of that document, sir. I'm gonna look, but I don't recall that.
Sure. Have a look at it and tell me what it says, or if you want
Can you
to show
repeat
it
the
to me.
title, please?
Sure. It's called Canada Freedom Rights Movement Statement of Chris Deering. Perhaps we can put it up on the screen so you can.
If you could
see.
put it on the screen, sir. I
Sure,
don't
we'll
have
do
that.
that.
Okay.
I can't recall the number, but I believe.
Council, if it may be assistance, I believe that's HRF 401598.
Thank you. If you could just put that up so that Mr. Deering could see it. Is that what you had in front
Yes,
of you?
I don't have that with me, sir, but I have seen it. Yes.
So sorry, did you have something else with you?
Notes to reference, sir.
These are notes that you made when?
Just recently, so I can remember. Sorry.
Okay, perhaps those notes can be filed at some point as well. Those are not notes you made at the time of these incidents, right?
No, sir.
Okay, I didn't realize. I thought you had your statement in front of you when you were testifying, but you had some other notes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Hope Braun, I believe your statement also says at the top of it, Canada Freedom Rights Movement Statement, correct?
I don't recall the very top line. Sorry.
Perhaps we could call up Ms.
I'm
Braun's
sure.
statement.
I'm sure it is. If that's what you're looking at.
This is the hearing clerk, just for the benefit of the record. That's HRF 401606.
That's correct.
That's your statement as well, correct?
Yes.
And so those statements say at the top, Canada Freedom Rights Movement Statements. Who put that on them?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
If I can answer.
No,
that from my-
I'm
It's appointed.
Commissioner.
Don't worry, that's questioning cross-examination. Go ahead.
You don't know.
I would imagine it would be the lawyers that were taking our statements.
Those would be the convoy organizer lawyer?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. It wasn't any of the people at this table, was it?
I was speaking to them on the phone, so I'm not sure.
Right.
I couldn't see them.
Who gave you the statement?
Pardon?
Who prepared this statement, typed it
It
up
was,
and gave it to you?
I was contacted through the Justice Center.
Right. And so one of the Justice Center's lawyers prepared this statement and sent it to you, correct?
It was basically word for word of, they asked me questions and I gave a response, and this is exactly what I said to them on the phone. So yes.
And then they gave it to you and they typed on it, Canada Freedom Rights Movement statement of Chris Deering and of Maggie Dingman, the original one said, correct?
Okay. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll agree with that.
Right. And that's the same heading that we see on the statements of Tom Marazzo, Canada Freedom Rights Movement, but you don't know what that means.
I don't know. I'm not somebody who, I understand that words can be titles for things. To me, Canada Freedom Rights Movement are 4 words that represent what I believe I'm part of. So I don't know. Looks
Okay.
like a good heading to me.
See, what I'm trying to figure out is most of the other witnesses here were interviewed by the commission, and then we have statements that are on the Public Order Emergency Commission letterhead.
Okay.
You were not interviewed by the commission's lawyers to prepare those statements, correct?
I was interviewed by a lawyer who was here working with the commission. So I don't know.
These you don't remember. And how about you, Mr. Deering?
Everything in this is correct. I wrote everything myself. Again, I do forget also who assisted with me. That's back to my traumatic brain injury. I'm sorry.
And neither one of you have criminal charges against you, correct?
No.
No.
And so you told your story to one of the convoy organizer lawyers, is that right?
The Justice Center.
The
is who
Justice Center, I
took mine.
apologize. And neither one of you, as I understand it, has filed a complaint with the Ottawa Police Service about your arrest.
Not yet. No.
Not yet.
And neither one of you has contacted the Crown to say, hey, excessive force was used with me.
I have not contacted them, no.
Yeah, at this point, I've tried to contact the government so many times. I'm kind of gonna, it's very frustrating. I've spent a lot of time trying to contact government agencies and have assistance and have not gotten anywhere for many years at this point, so.
And complaints against the police can be filed with an office, a government office called the Office of the Independent Police Review Directorate, OIPRD. Neither one of you filed a complaint with them, correct?
No,
No.
not yet.
And the SIU, that's the Special Investigations Unit, you can investigate situations in which someone says they've been seriously injured by the actions of the police. And so I just want to be clear, there haven't been any complaints or investigations by the SIU, have there?
Nope,
Not to my knowledge.
not to my knowledge.
And I understand, Mr. Deering, that you have some notes and you're going to share those notes with me, correct?
Sure.
Sure. And I understand, Ms. Hope Braun, you do not have any notes.
Not here with me, nope.
And you haven't filed any notes with your lawyers or the Justice Center lawyers?
I provided them with a letter from my chiropractor who spoke to the state of my back afterwards. Also with a trauma specialist, a psychologist, filed a letter from that professional as well. And I believe that's all the notes that I've provided them.
And I didn't see that trauma specialist note in
No.
the database, but perhaps I missed.
I don't think it was submitted.
It wasn't. So
no.
you did not give any documentation. Mr. Deering, I understand from your evidence, sorry, that you were in Ottawa on February 11th and then returned on the evening of the 17th and 18th.
Yes, sir.
And at that point, the Emergencies Act had been passed, correct?
Sure.
And there was an exclusion zone. You knew that, correct?
I did.
You did.
Sure.
And you knew what the newspapers were telling people not to go there unless you have an exemption.
I didn't read the
Either-
newspapers. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
I didn't read the newspapers or listen to the news because they were lying constantly. Sorry.
And none of the sources on which you get information were telling you, don't go into that zone.
Can you say it again? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Can you say it again? Sorry. I just.
Yeah, none of the sources from which you get information were telling you, don't go in that zone.
Sorry. I'm gonna have to ask you to repeat one more time. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Ms. Hope Braun, you presumably knew that you were told not to go into that area unless you had specific reasons to be there.
That's not what I was gathering from it, no.
You didn't turn on the radio, you didn't read any social media, you didn't go on Facebook.
I knew that they wanted to clear the area. I
Right.
was aware of that, yeah.
And you knew that the Emergencies Act had been passed.
Well, they were still debating it in the House the day that I was arrested, so I wasn't really
What day were you arrested?
on the 19th.
Yeah, the Emergencies Act had passed.
Okay, it passed, but it was still being debated and it hadn't passed the Senate, so.
And so both of you, you were in the area, you did not live in the area. You were not on your way to an appointment, correct?
No.
No, I had a hotel though booked, so I was,
And you both, I believe, fell to your knees and refused to move while the police operation was being carried out, correct?
No, that's incorrect. I was pulled down and beaten. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I apologize.
So, sorry. I said I was pulled down. I was not on my knees. I was pulled down and beaten.
Right,
Sorry.
you were on your knees and you refused to move.
No, I was standing up. Sorry. I was pulled down.
And Mr. Deering, you indicated that one of the police officers even told you to hide.
That's correct.
So he gave you some advice, and in spite of that, you stayed there.
That's correct.
And in fact, you believed as a veteran, you should put yourself in the way of other protesters because veterans are better able to withstand what was about to come, you said.
I wouldn't say better able. I just said we're more accustomed to it. Most civilians are not ready to be beaten. I was ready for it.
it was me who was on the knees. if you
I'm
like.
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, nothing.
And you were on the road, Mr. Deering, correct?
At what time?
Yes.
I was on the road. What's the question?
You were on the road when you were arrested.
I was on the road.
Yes.
That was hard to say. It was a lot of snow, so I don't know where I was on the grass, on the road. I'm not sure.
And so were you, Ms. Hope Brown, weren't you?
Everyone was on the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you understand you're obstructing a roadway, correct?
And the big,
Please, if I could ask everyone to not act out, that would be appreciated. We're trying to keep this civilized. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
everyone was obstructing a roadway that day.
So everyone, all of the protesters who were arrested were obstructing a roadway. correct?
And the police were also obstructing the roadway,
Yep.
if you think of it like that.
And
So-
there were also announcements made in both official languages telling people to move.
Yeah,
Didn't hear that.
I did.
And you were there, Mr. Deering, you said 15 minutes before, and you saw the police were looking violent and aggressive, you said, and so you decided to stay on that roadway, correct?
Absolutely.
And you're both aware, I take it, I'm just going to finish off, that there is an online fundraising campaign for both of you run by a group called Cafe.
I'm not aware of that until just now.
Okay, Derek Sloan, he's actually sitting in the audience.
Okay,
That's wonderful.
That's
You're
Okay.
aware of that?
I am now.
I am now, and I will be happy to.
And in fact, I see on that fundraising that he is fundraising for Chris Barber, Maggie Dingman, Bridget Belton, Chris Deering, Danny Bulford, and Tamara Leach. You know all of those people, correct?
I've only just met them here.
You see Mr. Sloan today?
I do, yeah.
Right. And in order to benefit from that fundraising, I take it it's important that you tell the story that you just told, correct?
I'm not sure. Sorry, can you benefit from, can you say that again?
In order to benefit from that fundraising, it's important that you tell the story that you've just told, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not really very familiar with what you're speaking to right now. Everything's happening very fast, so I'm,
Mr. Sloan is associated with the Ontario Party,
I understand. Yeah.
right? Right. Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next are the convoy organizers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Commissioner. Good afternoon, Chris and Maggie.
Afternoon.
My name is Bathsheba Vandenberg, and I'm counsel representing Freedom Corps and the protesters. I'd like to start by asking you, Chris, a few questions about what happened to you on that Friday, February the 18th, 2022. I understand that you were wearing your medals when you were arrested. Is that correct?
I was.
And did they get damaged when you were arrested?
They did. The first 20 minutes, I had my medals in my jacket, and with the shoving with the police, at one point, one of my medals, my Queen Jubilee medal, broke off, and I lost it.
Could I call up HRF 401566?
Just to perhaps there are a lot of documents, obviously. David Michikowski, sorry, for the Ottawa Police. Perhaps before my friend introduces one of the documents, she could just confirm whether it was something that was uploaded last night for the first time. I know there are 7 videos that were sent to me last night that were not on the system. So if we could just indicate for the record whether that is one of those documents, because I may have specific objection to that.
Okay, given the late disclosure, apparently, could you make sure you tell us beforehand what it is we're going to? Just so we can, if there are problems, we can outline them in detail.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, I can confirm to my friend that I'm going to refer to a video that was presented in the document list by the commission. And it is a video of the arrest of Chris Deering.
Just so that we're clear, that would be what was produced in the last couple of days, correct?
No, it was produced a while ago, my friend, and it was produced as part of the list by the commission.
Okay, we'll address that later. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, the numbers again for this video are HRF. Okay, you got it. Thank you.
That's a wounded veteran. Yes, sir. That's a wounded warrior right there. They got a shield.
We can pause the video. Thank you. Chris, can you confirm that that is you that's being thrown to the ground and beaten by the police?
Yes, it is.
Hey, I'm not sure about that question. Let's be a little careful with how we do that, please.
Can you confirm that's you, Chris?
Excuse me?
Can you confirm that is you in the video?
It is me.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask you, Maggie, a few questions about what happened to you on Saturday, February the 19th, 2022. And I'd like to bring up a document. This is a video that I did disclose yesterday, and it's a video of it's a photo. It's a photo of when Maggie was kneeling in front of the police.
David Michikowski for the Ottawa Police. For the reasons I've already articulated, that should not be allowed. These are things that should have been disclosed long ago, and we've had no explanation. I get it, sometimes things come up at the last minute, but we've had no explanation for why this was not disclosed.
Okay, well, let's see what the photo, if it's just a photo of Ms. Hope Braun kneeling, is that all it is?
That's all it is, and Mr. Commissioner.
Okay, I'm not sure what the prejudice would be, but let's go ahead.
And the number for that photo is HRF 00001612. Just confirming to the right in the green jacket, that's you kneeling?
Yes, and the charter is in front of me, and there are several people also kneeling and praying,
Thank you.
or doing however they're.
Okay. Now I'd like to call up a video, and this is a video of the arrest of Maggie, and she spoke about it, and I think it is important, Mr. Commissioner, that everyone here sees it. It's simply a video of what she already described and put into evidence.
David Michikowski for the Ottawa Police. I understand that is one of the videos that was disclosed last night as well.
That's correct, and it's also a video that was available to the public at large via the newspapers.
And can you, for the record, explain why it is these things weren't disclosed till last night?
Sir, if I may pop in, unlike some of the institutional individuals and representations here, we of course have no control over witnesses. They approach us. We get put in contact with them. We get the evidence when we get the evidence, and we put it before you as quickly as possible. These witnesses have no connection to us as a party. They were folks that were heard about and were asked to put in contact with. This is how that works, sir. It just unfortunately didn't happen until I believe we even got here in Ottawa, sir.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. Are you saying you didn't get this video till yesterday?
I understand that there was essentially, maybe Beth Vandenberg can explain the background, but at the end of the day, I think we provided it as soon as we could. We didn't have reference to it per se. I'll let Ms. Vandenberg speak to it.
Yes, Ms. Commissioner, that's correct, as I did only have notice of it yesterday, and I tried my very best to share it with everyone as soon as possible.
Okay, well, let's have a look at it and see where we go.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. The numbers for this video are HRF 401614. And Mr. Clerk, I'm going to ask you to pause at 2 seconds. So to play the video and then pause at 2 seconds. Thank you. Maggie, can you confirm that that is you in the green jacket and the blue toque?
It's me.
Thank you. Do you agree that the meaning, because I'm going to go into, we're going to actually just, let's continue playing the video. Pause, please. All right. Do you agree that that appears to be a snatch and grab method? Snatch and grab meaning
Sorry.
snatching and grabbing?
Firstly, this is a little bit leading, which I don't think you're entitled to do. Number two, I'm not sure this is a witness who can talk about police tactics, and I think now you're getting into something that's a bit unfair. So, I mean, you don't have much time. In fact, you have 1 minute left, so you might want to use it more appropriately.
I would like to call up another video, unless I'm going to get ejected to and lose another minute of my time. It's a video of Maggie being arrested.
I'm not sure this is really very relevant to what I have to decide, how the arrests were actually carried out and where there were
Okay.
no complaints. Now, if that's how you want to use your last minute, I'm prepared to have a look at it.
I did want to ask a question for the both of you, just to confirm that after you were arrested, that you were driven outside the Ottawa City Core and told by the police that you...
That's pretty leading for a phase you're not supposed to be leading your witness.
Were you driven outside of the...
That's,
Sorry.
if you want to ask, the way to ask, I'm happy to assist. It's you ask, how was it what proceeded after you were arrested? Where were you taken?
Chris, can
So-
you tell us what proceeded after you were arrested?
I believe last time we spoke, so when the processing line was finished, after the 2 hours of staying in the freezing cold, not able to sit or kneel, ended on my medication again, I had my information taken. I was then placed in the back of a squad car. They read me what I was being charged with, which was public obstruction and mischief. So I said I understood. The police officer then left his vehicle for 5 minutes. He came back and he said, "Well, today's your lucky day. You're not being charged." I said, "That's great." I said, "Can I know why that changed?" He said, "No, you don't need to know that." So at that time, I felt it was my understanding that I'm free to go because I'm not being charged with anything. Then the next 5-10 minutes, they put me in a paddy wagon with no direction. They didn't say anything. They said, "Go in here." So again, I mean, I have no choice. I go to the paddy wagon. I'm there for 25 minutes. I don't know where I'm going. Don't know how long I'm there. Eventually, the paddy wagon does fill up over the next couple of hours. Then they drive us around for approximately half an hour to 45 minutes. It's very hard to tell because there's no windows, of course, in the paddy wagon. There's no concept of time. They then drove us to a public works building that was 10.2 kilometers away from Parliament Hill. When they let us out of the paddy wagons, they gave us our possessions back. They gave us no paperwork. The police officer came out and gave us a stern warning and said, "You don't come back to Ottawa or you'll be charged." They gave us all our possessions back. Again, sorry. Most of us, due to the cold, our cell phones had died. No one had any money. No one had any masks. We couldn't go into the building to make a phone call. So we were stranded. So we were forced to walk to a Wendy's that was, and I forget the approximate distance. So we had to walk from that public works building in the snow, in the freezing cold, to a Wendy's. I had called a friend that I had just met prior the night on the 17th. I met someone for 5 minutes, and he said, "If you need anything in Ottawa," and this is the type of people you met in Ottawa. I met him for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and he said, "If you need anything, you call me and I'll pick you up right away," and whatever. And he did exactly that. I picked him up. I called him at Wendy's. I said, "Can you please pick us up? We have no money. We have no means. We don't know where we are. We're not from Ottawa." It was just, I never thought that I would get dumped out of the city like trash by the police. It was,
And Mr. Commissioner,
See that you're way over your time.
thank you. I was just going to ask if the same thing had happened to Maggie, just to confirm.
I'll be very brief. So when, after I was behind the police line, it's all in my statement, that's there, but I was thrown to the ground and there was a lot of weaponry around, and I looked up and there was a gun pointed, it appeared to be at my head. And from there, I was taken outside the city and dropped off. And again, I was at a towing place where they were towing the trucks, and there was no shelter. There was no place to plug in your phone. There was nothing. And thankfully, people came and got us. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ottawa Residents Coalition.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good afternoon. My name is Emily Tamman. I represent the Coalition of Ottawa Residents and Businesses. You've both described to us, and we've heard from other convoy participants, that your experience in Ottawa was generally a positive one,
it was.
and that you found it to be a peaceful and loving atmosphere when you attended the convoy.
It was amazing. It was the Canadian spirit.
It was, and even between us and the police up until those last days, it was a wonderful experience.
I'm going to ask that a video be pulled up. It's COA 50135. And just before we start it, this is a video, a compilation of images that were submitted to the commission before these proceedings commenced. And for the purposes of the record, the video was accompanied by an affidavit with the number AFF 7 zeros and a 2, explaining the origins of each part of the video and where it came from. But generally speaking, I can tell you these are videos that were taken by people in Ottawa during the convoy occupation. So if we could play that video, and then I would just ask you to reflect on whether it accurately represents what you witnessed while in Ottawa.
Going along with, we've come here to help get rid of people like you from your tyrannical shit. You're a bully and you're so pathetic in life. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm looking to do. Okay. Okay, you are so pathetic in life that you have nothing better to do than to enforce mass shit. You know that? Yeah, so that makes you feel good about yourself. And that's it's sickening. It's disgusting. So now you're gonna kick us outside in -30. You will answer to God. Yes, you will. And He will send you straight to fucking hell.
Morning 19. This is David Alderton. It is now 8:01, and we just officially let the cabinet ministers and all the people of Ottawa sleep in. Are we going to have that? Let's give them a wake-up call, boys. Give them. Wake up!
Practicing this way? This poor guy doing his job.
I thought you had a question.
You weren't waving me down, brother? Oh, is that Braun? Look at a fucking guy. Fucking freedom have you lost? What freedom have you lost? Tell me a freedom you've lost. I lost my mind because I haven't slept in 5 fucking days. And it's not even hard. I love you. The diesel engine runs enough to drive a fucking person crazy. It is. It is. Yeah. Because I wanted to go. Hey, Chris. Fucking believe it. I wanted to go. It has to fucking stop.
Remember, these people haven't been able to sleep for 10 days. Okay? It's kind of funny. I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty hilarious.
Non-sleepy Ottawa. Mighty, mighty Ottawa. Mighty, mighty Ottawa. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Boys gotta go. Boys gotta go.
Almost out of time.
Yes. Okay, well, I guess we'll leave it there. Can I just ask each of the witnesses one question, please,
No,
Commissioner?
you still have, it's still have a minute or two. if
Yeah,
you-
no, I understand
Okay.
that. It's been difficult to find an appropriate time to put this video into evidence by virtue of the limitations on cross-examination. So yeah, if we could just finish it, and I would just have one question for them.
people, but now people in the downtown are angry.
We could stop it there. Thank you. And I would just ask you, Ms. Hope Braun, as a mother of 2 young children, if a spectacle like this was unfolding in your community, in your neighborhood, in your front lawn, would you feel safe and peaceful?
Given the events of the last couple of years and the actions of our government, I felt very safe there. And
I didn't ask you though if you felt safe
Sorry?
there. If this was happening in your neighborhood in front of your house and you were not a part of this action, would you feel that it was safe and peaceful?
Again, I'm just going to say, given the context of the last couple of years and the actions of our government, I would be there with that. Yes, if it happened outside of my door and I had people and I hosted people afterwards.
While your children were trying to sleep? That would be okay with you?
I won't deny the fact that would be, that there was a lot of energy being brought to Ottawa and.
But I asked if it would be okay with you.
It would be okay with me, yeah.
Mr. Deering, if that was happening in your community, in your front lawn, would that be okay with you?
I'd probably join in, yes.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is the Ontario Provincial Police.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. My questions have already been asked and answered, so I have nothing further.
Okay, next is counsel for former Chief Slowly.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Democracy Fund, JCCF.
Hi, Mr. Deering and Ms. Braun. I'm Rob Kittredge, Counsel for the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Mr. Deering, I think Counsel for the Ottawa Police Service asked you a question about whether you saw news reports telling you not to come to the protest area after the Emergencies Act was invoked. You replied that you weren't watching the news around that time because the media had been lying about the protests. Do you remember that question?
Yes, I do.
But you saw news reports about the protests before that time, didn't you?
I may have.
It may preclude some of my questions, but did you see news reports that lied about or misrepresented the protests?
All the time.
Did media reports suggest that the protesters were aggressive?
They did.
Racist?
They did.
Violent?
They did.
While you were at the protests, did you see any aggression or violent behavior from protesters?
From protesters or the police, sorry?
From the protesters?
Oh, no, not from the protesters, no.
From the police?
Lots.
Did you see any racist behavior while you were at the protests?
No, it was a diverse culture.
Thank you. Ms. Braun, some media reports and our Prime Minister have suggested that unvaccinated people are often racist and or misogynist. Could you tell me whether you saw any racism or misogyny from unvaccinated people or anybody else while at the protests in Ottawa?
Absolutely not. If anything, if anyone had any of that, there was a lot of healing with that, coming together for freedom from all over the world.
And things were a little bit rushed at the end of your conversation with counsel for the convoy organizers, but you mentioned in passing that during your arrest, a gun was pointed at your head. Can you tell me a little more about that?
That's right. So from the video, you saw that I was kneeling down. I had told the officers that I was willing to be arrested and that I would not resist. And at that point, I ended up on the ground with my hands in front of me, and a very heavy knee went into my back, and there were several officers on me. And because I caught my fall with my hands and they wanted my hands behind my back, they kept saying, put your hands behind your back, but I couldn't because of the weight. And it took some time, at least a minute, at which point I thought, okay, I'm going to dare look up. And I looked up, and there was a gun right up my head, a long rifle gun.
Which end of the gun was pointed at your head?
It looked like it was the barrel of the gun.
And who was pointing it at your head?
It was one of the officers. And I remember it was a more beige kind of camo.
All right, well, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Okay, before I go to Commission Counsel, Ms. Bathsheba Vandenberg, normally the convoy would be last because you're the ones who, they're your witnesses, so, which is why you can't cross-examine, but normally you come last. So since I took you or you were taken out of order, I'll give you a little more time if you would like to wrap up. Pardon me?
If it's okay, I'll just wrap up for Ms. Vandenberg.
That's fine.
Okay, hello?
Hello.
Okay, and so I just want to ask you a couple of questions about some of your other observations. You saw.
Short wrap up.
Yeah, so you saw the videos that my friend put up on there.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and she asked you some questions about your opinions on them. Other than those incidents, and first it wasn't asked, did you observe those events that were in those videos?
Some of them, but not the majority of them. There's a lot of streets that I didn't see. So.
Right, and two of the photos in there, one had a Confederate battle flag, the other had a Nazi flag. Did you see any such flags while you were in Ottawa?
No, never.
No.
All right, and what, if any, conversations did you have with other protesters that you might classify as racist or misogynist or any form of things that you thought were inappropriate? Did you have any such conversations, either of you?
Never. It was full of love, unity, joy. It was the best time after the last 2 years that we had had. It was incredible.
Did any of them
I
call
didn't have
for
either.
the overthrowing of the government of Canada by violence?
No.
No.
Did any of them ever call for violence at all?
No.
No.
Did you see anything with respect to destruction of property?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, and Commission Counsel, any re-examination?
No re-examination, Commissioner.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And,
sir.
And if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe and press that notification button to receive more information like this. You can also follow me at yellowhead.vote to stay informed and get the inside scoop. Thank you.